the chair. Yeah. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Ramsey County Board Workshop on the development of our 2026 state and federal legislative platform. I'm really excited that this is a really important work, so I wanted to make sure everyone was here for it. And so we are a reminder that this board workshop is being recorded and it's live stream on Zoom webinar, so there will be other people listening. There will be no votes taken during this workshop. This is our first of 2 workshops on our legislative platform. And there won't be any votes on this one. And we're gonna start with introduction of the people in the room. So Mary Jo McGuire, Commissioner District 2 and Chair of the Legislative Team, and my Vice Chair is Rena Moran. So I'll go to you.
Good afternoon, Rena Moran, Ramsey County Commissioner, District 4.
Lynn Becker, County Manager.
Hi, Jennifer O'Rourke, Director of Government Relations.
Good afternoon, Maria Sarabia, Chief of Staff.
Kelly Miller, County Commissioner, District 7.
Garrison McMurtry, Commissioner, District 3.
Mai Chang, Commissioner, District 6.
Rafael Ortega, District 5.
Tara Devon Singh, County Commissioner, District 1.
Excellent, and then.
Larry Turman, Policy Planning. Dear Athlete, Deputy County Manager, Health and Wellness Service.
Kathy Murphy, Aide to Commissioner Miller. Michaela Campbell, Aide to Commissioner Miller.
Lindsay Bernard, Senior Policy Analyst.
Jen Hamrick, Senior Policy Analyst.
Josh Olson, Community and Economic Development.
Mary Collins, Deputy County Manager, Economic Growth, Community Investment. Elizabeth Emerson George, Senior Vice President of Public Affairs at Gulf Public.
Eva Dooley, Deputy Director of Communications and Public Relations.
Marissa Dillon, Planning Manager.
Julie Wood, Government Relations. Amy Wants, Government Relations.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone, for being here. This is, as I said, really important work. And this is, like I said, the first of workshop in our platform. The second workshop will be scheduled for October 21st. So we'll have some time between now and then to do any editing and amending of the things that we wanna do in this legislative session. So we've all been doing budget hearings these last 5 days, and we know how many times have we said we really need resources for the work that we do, the work that we're required to do, the work that we're mandated to do. And this is a meeting where we can really come up with those specific platforms where we talk to the legislators and tell them what resources we need to do, what they require us to do. So we will be taking a final vote on this platform on November 18th. So we have a great team of our government relations here. We've got Director Jen O'Rourke, she's gonna lead us off. And then both Amy Wasilwick and Julie Wood will be here to answer any questions. And we've also got Maria Sarabia, who is going to, maybe I'm handing it over to you first, okay? And so today is about having a good discussion, answering any questions, really talking about the things that we want to see in our platform. So if we don't, this is the time to talk about all of that. So with that, I'm gonna turn it off to Director or Deputy County
Chief of Staff.
Chief of Staff.
Changes over the years.
Chief of Staff.
Okay,
Chief of Staff, Maria Sarabia.
thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Board and then the County Manager. So I'm here today to help jump us off with the conversation. This has been a work in progress. And I just want to acknowledge the team, Jennifer, Amy, and Jolie, putting in a lot of work and a lot of time, as well as the support and leadership of our county directors across departments have put in a lot of work and time to be a little bit more coordinated, to be more organized, to be having more forethought in terms of how we approach this next session. This is, again, as Madam Chair has stated, an update and an overview. And we're going to preview what we think could become the final legislative platform. And while I'll say that, I'll just also acknowledge that there's a lot of efforts happening in terms of the platform, but underneath the platform, there is a big need and huge lift across our entire system around that intergovernmental partnerships. And so you all have been in all of the budget hearings. We're working rigorously to try to establish more coordinated and more focused partnerships that really then support our legislative platform. And so we're thankful for acknowledging that and for your support in that. And the other thing I would just say is we're in really pressing times from the jump off to last session, throughout the entire session, up until events that are even happening today around, our legislators and happenings at the Capitol. So I want to just acknowledge that piece because this is a kind of, nebulous body of work sometimes, but then really has to be really focused. And then we really need to hunker down and set our priorities and be clear about them. So acknowledging sort of all the moving parts, and thanks for the adaptability and support across the board. With that, I'm gonna just pass it over to Jen, who's gonna go into our timelines, and just reiterating again, this is an update. We worked in time to come back on the 21st, where we'll have some more things firmed up and we can work in other preferences. And this also gives us time for our DCMs to work directly with directors and for us to really be focused on what it is that makes the final platform. So here you'll see an overview of high level kind of time and some comparison over what happened last time we kind of went through this process to now. And so Jen, thank you so much.
Thank you, Chief of Staff Sarabia, and thank you, commissioners, for giving us this time in your workshop today. Thanks to the county manager. As well, I just want to start off by saying government relations is really thankful for this time this week, but we've been in all of your budget conversations the last 5 presentations and have really soaked in every single time you've talked about state and federal partnerships or revenue raisers and ways to be creative. So we're here to be your partner in that and look forward to the work over the next several months. This first slide really is about just a quick comparison about how we've done the platform in the past and then what we're doing now. First and foremost, this is a late session. It's the second year of the biennium and everything starts officially on February 17th. Just the other day, I kind of did a measure of where we were and we're exactly at the halfway point. We've had 4 months roughly since special session ended. And now we've got about 4 months leading into the middle of February. Anyone who's been around that place in the second year, there will be hearings happening in January and we'll obviously be ready with our delegation meeting and doing all of the work, but officially things don't start until the 17th. It is a policy and bonding year. As you know, last year there was a tremendous amount of work done around the budget and they officially have a budget going into this biennium. We really pushed staff to focus on policy and non-fiscal measures as we were talking about different ideas. We'll talk more about that later. But as you all know, getting more funds in next legislative session will be a tremendous lift. That doesn't mean we don't go in with a few ideas about how counties could be served better. We do have a goal of a slimmer platform and a more focused platform. I think a lot of us have wanted that for a long time. I would say what's a little bit different about this year, in the past, we've built off the previous platform and sort of amended the old document. I have a copy of the old document if anyone would like to see that. But we really pushed staff to start over from zero. We created a new thing called LPATS, which stands for Legislative Platform Advisory Team. I'll give kudos and credit to the people behind me. Jolie Wood and Amy Wozlowick really dreamt that whole thing up, and as a good boss, I went along with it. But it's been a lot of great work and a way to really get in with the subject matter experts who work in our departments. You've heard from a number of them over the last several days, and we'll get more into the LPATS work in a few minutes. We did meet with all of your offices and you one-on-one. That's something we've always done, but those were very good conversations. We've got a slide on that work later too. And then I would just share, like Commissioner McGuire said, we're looking for final approval at the November 18th board meeting, with 2 likely stops being a board workshop on October 21st and then a legislative committee of the whole sometime in early November. So this slide really just speaks to what we already just talked through. The 4th slide here is really a framework that we took from the county manager. These should be familiar to you because they're really the lens and the same priorities that guided the budget process. It's always nice to have strategic vision, mission, goals work in front of us, and these were certainly helpful in that. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the legislative advisory teams. This slide, we'll go to this one because it's prettier. These are really the 9 legislative LPATs that we held to work on the various topics. Rather than have them line up specific with service teams, we kind of organized the work by how it happens at the Capitol. But this is those. Each of these groups met 2 or 3 times. And, you know, we really look at these as like the go-tos for us when a bill comes up and we're like, hey, how much would this cost you? Financial services, or how much would this cost the community development department if this went into effect? Some of these folks are the ones who end up coming to the Capitol to help you all testify on various bills. So it felt really good this year to kind of get a little bit new energy in this space with both from a leadership and boots on the ground kind of workers.
Director O'Rourke, about how many people sit on each of these LPATs? So there's 9 of them in the county, and some may have, so a person may sit on more than one, maybe. And about how many people, and it's mainly internal, right? We don't have outside people sitting in these. This is internal.
Great questions. Thank you, Commissioner. I'll start with the last one. You're right. When we kick these off, we asked ourselves and worked with others, should these be a mix of external partners and internal? We wanted to start on the staff side, just because so many had been already doing the budget work and we're close to our needs and whatnot in that regard. I think as these move forward, Commissioner, we can add on or invite members from the community when some of these are getting together to look at certain bills or whatnot. I would say on average, each of these had between 4 and 9 staff people involved.
Right? Commissioner Miller. And then
What level of staffing are we including? So are we including leadership, but also are we including the people that are actually on the ground doing the work?
Short answer, yes. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. Commissioner McMurtry.
How often are they meeting?
You know, I might invite Joey Wood to come up, if that's okay, just, these each met 2 or 3 times, because we don't want to overburden staff either. They're not like official committees, if you will, or the kind of work that happens like here in a workshop. Rather, they were brought together with the idea they'd meet 2 or 3 times as we were working on our legislative platforms. So
Will this continue once the session starts? Like, I wonder if they could be a good sounding board on even strategy if things come up, then we can, bring this group together during session.
short answer, Commissioner, yes. That's how we've been thinking about it.
Right.
Did you have anything on?
No, actually, that's exactly it. We, Commissioner, we have thought about continuing it on an ongoing basis. I would say thus far, most LPATs have met 2 to 3 times. We may continue to meet into the fall as we develop the final platform draft.
Thank you, Commissioner Moran.
And I think you still said this already, but the advisory team is staff, Ramsey County staff members in each of these areas.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, we'll continue on. Now we get to the issue. Thank you.
So this slide really is a focus on all of our conversations with all of you. These are just some of the themes that came up and priorities that came up in conversations with all of you. So number 1, thank you for that time. And number 2, these are really an important part of our platform development and whatnot. We all, this time of year, you're bumping into legislators at different events. We are too, and some of that work already happens out in communities. So it's great when that can get fed back in. I think I'm turning over to Chief of Staff Sarabia to kick it off, at least on the community and partner engagement.
Sure. So, thanks, Jen. As I alluded to, there's a lot of moving parts on the underpinnings of all of this work, but we've had the privilege of showing up in different spaces. Commissioner John, East Side Funders Group, we know that there are a variety of other advisory councils. There's different Commissioner Moran, we've met about some of the connections and around housing. There's different things that you all are plugged into that are constituent or resident focused. And so we want to acknowledge that there's room for us to have even more intentionality in those spaces as it relates to our legislative platform and therefore more strategy. And so this is just a sprinkling of some of the groups and advisory councils and other efforts that we are connecting to. I would call out in terms of the city of St. Paul, not just the city of St. Paul, but they are a key partner because we have the county that houses the capital city. But also there's more work happening with other cities, and there's a meeting actually coming up in November where we'll be discussing these same topics with the city administrators. And so wanting to just call that out, there's also some more focused groups that we have our policy and soon to be policy and administrative strategy area that's connecting specifically with Hennepin and Scott and Washington and some of our partners around our federal actions, but then even just the strategies with the state in terms of our health and human services work. And that need for modernization of systems. So this is a sprinkling of things, of different touch points where we're working with different, I don't wanna say interest groups, but like folks who are particularly have, higher, interest in this. So I'll pause there. You see some of the topics that are listed to the side. If you look at the advisory teams, y'all's interest in terms of discussions with the commissioner and then what the community groups are saying, there's a lot of alignment. So this next portion of time is for us to get some more intentionality and strategy around there.
Great.
I'll pause there because I think there's questions.
Yeah, there are some questions. Thank you for that, Commissioner Moran, and then Commissioner.
So as we talk about alignment, I don't usually see Scott County up there. Could you talk a little bit about that partnership?
Sure. I would just say that we're in unprecedented times. And one thing I think we all have in common across counties is that we need our state system to work more effectively and meet our needs for the mandates that fall on us. And so there's some tailored discussion on how to add pressure to the state and particularly to DHS and our systems modernization and even now the DCYF as well around some of our SNAP and healthcare, MAXA, MNsure, Maxis, all of the systems. And so there's some focused conversations on how to apply that pressure to the state in a unified way that probably might not have usually come up in the past traditionally, but that's a little bit more about that work.
And I would say we could probably add almost all the District 10 counties because, AMC's been having these transportation work groups. They've had the SSI, they've had these, the systems modernization, a lot of work being done there. We've got our recycling and energy. We've got our solid waste management group. That's statewide, but that's a lot of metro counties. So there's so much more. There's always been synergy there. I think we're just being much more deliberate about it
We have to
now.
be, yeah.
And so I'm gonna encourage all of us to go to the District 10 meeting. Transportation meeting is coming up, but there's a full district wide with all the issues covered, meeting for AMC, and I don't know what the date is on that.
Have it,
Yeah.
November.
And so anyway, we should all go to that, because that'll show us even more what the District 10.
It's November
legislature- November 3rd. And so, make sure we all have that on our calendar, but, Director of Work, and then I got Commissioner.
I'll just use this as an opportunity to
Yeah.
remind you all, you had the opportunity to vote on AMC's
Oh, right.
priorities for that meeting on the 3rd.
Yeah.
We usually, you'll probably get an email from me, because there'll be a list of say 20, and oftentimes the legislative team leaders, Commissioners Moran and McGuire, help us maybe focus that list so that, we see good things, make that list. There's never been anything necessarily controversial. It would be like mental health and modernization and things, but I would point that out. That's an important vote to make.
And you have to do it in person. We always asked if we can please do it remotely because if you can't make it, but it really is helpful. It's where we set the agenda for the AMC platform. And so it's where we want to make sure that our votes get registered on that platform
You
discussion.
can send a proxy, I think, for the AMC, you can. You just have to sign.
Oh, but someone in person has to be there for that proxy. Yeah,
Yes.
yes.
Feel
So
free to
someone,
deploy us.
okay, great.
Mhm.
Oh, that's
I
good to
mentioned that in
know.
the-
Oh,
so,
great.
Did you send somebody for your, like, no? Give me his tag.
Okay, yeah, okay, so great. Thanks for that reminder. I
Just
was
to ex-
forgetting about that. Yeah.
Madam Chair, to expand on that, a lot of what was discussed and many of you were able to attend the AMC Fall Policy Conference. That's the space where the rubber's gonna hit the road and the final agenda will be adopted. We were staffed in those spaces and you all were plugged in some of those spaces where the discussion is really rich and sometimes we're not all aligned
No,
with the county, so we wanna be sure to cast our vote
Yes.
in those spaces.
Absolutely. And those the final votes for those, in those committees will be in the December at the annual meeting. So that's why that's an important meeting to be at, because those, in those spaces, in those committees, the final votes will be taken based on what feedback they get from the district meetings and everything.
And doesn't AMC want to have a smaller platform that's more focused, so they're not trying to do a big book, they're trying to do like top 3
Yeah.
between all of the committees.
Yeah, it's much more focused. Is
Yeah.
what they're feeling though, yes. So it's good for us to prioritize it. They'll work on a number of issues, but they do
Mhm.
want to be really focused on here's what counties really need. So we do want to be sure that we weigh in on that, Thank you for that. Okay, thank you for that great discussion. We'll keep reminding you of that date and the issues that come out. And we'll have our meeting will we have our meeting before we vote? No, okay, we will have our second meeting before we get to votes. Then we can talk about our strategy of all voting for similar ones so we can get the critical mass. Okay, Commissioner McMurtry and then Commissioner Ortega.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, just to continue a little bit on the
Yeah,
AMC piece,
right.
I think that the collaboration between us and other counties, I think will be important for some of those areas that we all want to lift up. I think we also should kind of think through the strategy on that, because sometimes specifically Ramsey and Hennepin maybe shouldn't be taking the lead on it, and the other suburban counties should maybe take more of the lobbying lead for some of their members of the legislature that they can, who may be on the fence a little bit more than the folks we have here and Ramsey.
Yeah.
So just to keep that in mind as we're thinking through strategy for next year of really deciphering which one of these issues on the platform should we really be leading on, and which others do we want to kind of, not be as in the forefront. And then the other question I had is, how much collaboration, I see the city of St. Paul here, how much collaboration do you all have with the city of St. Paul and their platform? And that's one side of my question. The other side is, what about the other cities in Ramsey County that may not have the apparatus of a city of St. Paul to have like a government affairs team out lobbying? Is there work that you all do with the League of Minnesota Cities to kind of advocate for our other cities in Ramsey County? Kind of walk me through how that works for St. Paul and for suburban County.
Madam
Yes,
Chair, thank you for
Commissioner.
that, Commissioner, for that question, Commissioner. I'm gonna answer that, and it may sound a little murky. So we work a lot with the city of St. Paul and their lobbyists, both, at the Capitol and then here in the interim as well. I'll poke fun at them for a second. We're always trying to get our platform done as quickly as possible, and Commissioner Moran does a good job of reminding us that things are happening behind the scenes at the legislature. Fairly, people are having conversations about what they want to do next year, so that keeps us pretty prompt and tight in our timeline. I'll remind you, last year, the city of St. Paul didn't pass an official platform until good 2/3 of the way through
Yep.
session. And partly that was because of one or two big issues, I think, that they were trying to come to consensus on themselves. They know what we're doing this, I think. I don't know where they're at with their own platform development process yet. You can look up there and see joint things. We all care about downtown. There will be some sort of downtown agenda that I would hope we're all in somewhat lockstep on. Bonding projects, we're gonna have our bonding projects that we lead on. They're gonna have theirs list that we support each other. We support those Ramsey County cities. Like the city of Roseville is asking for $1.5 million for their oval skating rink. They never necessarily ask us for a letter of support. St. Paul doesn't always ask us for a letter, an official letter of support, but I think we all go to the Capitol with wanting our own thing and then being really supportive of just getting more money for the East Metro.
Yeah.
That's how I talk about it. If a legislator pushes me on something, it's we're trying to get more and good things for the East Metro, because that covers a lot of ground, and I think it makes sense in how we position ourselves against the other side of town. And is there any part of that question I didn't answer?
And you kind of spoke to the East Metro piece, kind of spoke to the other cities in Ramsey County
Right.
that may not have the same level of support when it comes to lobbying, is there work that we do specifically with the League of Minnesota Cities, or like, just better understand how
Yeah.
that works with them?
I have an example of an issue, I think, I believe, that the League of Minnesota Cities and AMC will have some sort of presence around that, elected official privacy address, security
Mhm.
issue. I think that will be something we'll probably all work on collectively. Elections issues are sometimes that way, where counties are doing that work for the cities, and we're usually pretty lockstep.
Yeah.
Last year, the last couple of years, there's been some consternation around the housing, a certain housing issue, where cities, because of their local control and zoning issues, have been in a different place than counties, or counties have been quieter on that issue.
Mhm.
So, I know that isn't a complete answer. I would say the first 12 years of my lobbying career, I spent at the League of Minnesota Cities. So I like working with those guys, and they do quality work.
That's great.
And I know that at AMC, you know, we've always been working on LGA, the local government aid, with the CPA, and we have our own big issue with CPA. But I know that they try to work together on that, just to say what I think has happened in the past, where the league, they've got, there seems to be more LGA money than CPA money, money for cities versus counties, and we're trying to at least get that to be equal. So at least if they raise LGA, they have to raise CPA. So, I know we're concerned about that, but it's a good question. And I will say that for our cities, of which we have, you know, 16 cities and one, other than St. Paul, and one township, that, we do say in our platform that we support what our cities are doing unless we don't, you know, doesn't mean we're their chief lobbyist or anything, but we don't oppose what our cities want to do unless they are doing something we don't want. So we'll try to probably establish that, even though we won't be putting in a ton of time on that. And I wanted to also recognize, thanks to Commissioner McMurtry for being our District 10 representative on AMC. You've been doing a great job of really pointing out all the things that we need to be working on together. So thank you for your leadership there. Commissioner Ortega.
I was just curious, and I don't know if this is even feasible or if it makes any sense. You know, is it, especially with all the new members we have on the board. So if I look at a scheme like this, and I put every AMC committee, and we know what the main issues in those committees, because we all don't sit on all the other committees. So I really don't know what the main issue that we should be concerned as Ramsey County for or against.
Commissioner, that's a great point, and that would be a pretty easy exercise for us to prepare for you, and,
Your crosswalk.
share it, right, the crosswalk, we use that phrase a lot.
Because,
but-
you know, I know I
but-
personally sit with a lot of folk, most of the people I have coffee with at AMC are not from the metro area. Brentwood County, you know, and if I know that they're on the other side of the coin, so to speak, it gives me an opportunity to bridge that conversation.
Mhm. So would this be something, thank you, Commissioner Ortega, I mean, at our next meeting that we're having part 2 of this discussion, we'll have the list of what the AMC issues are, at least those issues, and maybe we could use that as a starting point to talk about some of these things. We could do it in our workshop. Cause that's before the
Yeah.
voting, it's before the annual meeting, it's before the voting in committees. I mean, it's a good recognition that we would like, you know, more background information on all of that. Thank you for bringing that up. And I have a question too, just about our Ramsey County legislators, which, as you all know, we had a meeting a couple weeks ago on Zoom where we just explained to them our budget process, which was great, was well received. They are very interested in this. They're actually interested in doing meetings on specific issues, like let's do a property tax meeting or a solid, but you know, they want to go into depth, and some of them want to go into more depth than others, and we would just have a special Zoom call for them. And so we'll be visiting our legislative team, which meets almost weekly, but now we meet every 2 weeks now. We'll be meeting more often to talk about what those individual sessions will be, but obviously would like all of your input on that, and maybe we'll talk about that as we move along here, how we engage our legislators, because I could see legislators serving on each one of those LPAT teams, you know, whatever committees they're on. I mean, we eventually want to involve them in all of the work that we're doing, because we need them to be our champions in this work. So I'm just kind of calling them out on this partner engagement, that they're huge. I mean, everyone's important. They'll be huge partners in this. So if you want to say any more about that, otherwise we can move on. Okay,
Thanks, Commissioner. Jumping ahead this slide, we wanted to share with you, let's see, my notes, it's slide 9. But Commissioner McGuire pointed out on September 11th, we had Zoom legislative delegation meeting with about 14 out of the 25 legislators being able to attend, and we use that as an opportunity to present to them the Ramsey County proposed budget and give them a chance to ask questions and whatnot. County Manager Becker and the CFO were our chief presenters, the property tax staff were on, and it was a really good chance for a few folks to ask questions and just kind of hear top level about the budget. Obviously, there's so many issues that are impacted by state funding or federal funding, and we wanted the chance to just kind of bring light to some more of those. County Manager Becker really helped us kind of hone in on 4 themes, and I'm gonna read out loud to you here. They make complete sense. No new unfunded mandates. Protect counties from further cuts. Counties need to be at the table for any policy service delivery change. And then specific to us in Ramsey County, finding some sort of financial fix to the fact that we get hit in the CPA formula like nobody else. And perhaps finding, using a PILT or something similar to a PILT to address that financial issue. And you'll hear me say this a couple of times, that something similar to PILT. I don't know that we want to keep using PILT as like the name for our approach here. It's super easy to confuse it with what it really stands for and just causes a lot of explaining. So a few of us are trying to come up with a creative, different name.
for all of our non-taxable land. So I've got Commissioner McMurtry and then Commissioner Jefferson.
I just want to
We
get,
just say that.
Pardon me? Oh,
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
oh.
I do. I just would love to get a, kind of readout of how the conversation went after sharing this with the delegation. What were their feedback or responses to it?
Maybe you can talk about your, follow-up with Leslie. You actually had another meeting, right?
We did.
Okay.
Thanks for that. So there were, I'll pick on a few legislators who were on the call. Representative Liz Lee, from the east side, is one of my go-tos because she's on the property tax committee or tax committee, and knows those issues really well. She also worked out in Congress for some different members and just has a really, she shows up in a lot of important spaces where she understands the pressures on cities and counties. So we had a follow-up. She was present in our virtual meeting. I don't remember her asking questions so much, but we had let her know we'd like to have a follow-up meeting with her. A few of us, including Commissioner Zhang, did meet with her after JIPTAC about a week ago, and that went well. I mean, you all have a workshop coming up on CPA and PILT on October 14th, I believe it is. So I think these will be, ongoing.
And the reason why I ask is, I mean, I just want to make sure that they get the full context, because we're going to need them to be our strong advocates, speaking to their other colleagues at the legislature. And I mean, you know, these property tax increases impact them as well. So they live in their district. So I just want to make sure that we're being, you know, extra clear with them on that need of partnership, that like we can't do this unless they're also out there advocating for us with their colleagues as well.
And I really appreciate you bringing that up. And they were receptive to these. I would say that they accepted. These are issues that we deal with. I think many of them would be supportive of us, you know, working on these and would help us with them. And that's when they asked for really more specific details so they could help us. And that's why we're looking to set up these more specific meetings. Like here's how you can help us in transportation, or here's our more details on housing and economic development. Here's more details on on the CPA formula. So I think they were looking for more information, which we said, absolutely, we want to give this to you.
Well, and I mean, on that front, I'm just looking at this last legislative session. I think we were able to hold off stuff, but I think those same items are gonna be coming up again next year. So the information ain't changing much.
No,
Like,
right.
we provided a lot of information to them this last session, so
Yeah, so it was my sense, I felt good that they were wanting more information, that they wanted to meet more, like we could do, we set up these Zoom ideas, they're like, yeah, give us an hour of, on different topics, and I mean, that's how I understood what they were interested in. So I've got Commissioner Jevons and then Commissioner Jean.
I'm just curious how we are educating around specific unfunded mandates. And I want to think out of the box, something that has shifted since our last session, which is capital security and how a lot of that falls on our sheriff's department. And wondering, how also to incorporate things that might not seem so overt or obvious, but directly impact our resources.
Excellent, that would be, I totally agree, that would be a great session to talk to them about all of the things that they might not be thinking about. We could word it very creatively, like what you may not know, what you may not be thinking about with your taxes, like, yeah, thank you, that's a great suggestion. Commissioner Jean.
Thank you. Just wanted to follow up on the conversation with the legislators. Did they share or give any ideas about like where the priorities may be? Or what issues they were concerned about?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner John, I think it was a lot about us sharing and then listening this time. It wasn't really set up for maybe that conversation, which I would encourage we have another table where maybe they're sharing. I will say, I think, and I told Jennifer Maria this too, I think we're in a mode of this is gonna be a long game here on some of these things and trying to think about what we're truly advocating for and where areas where we are doing some early education. And I do think, one interesting thing that they did say, a couple of them, is that there used to be a time when the city, county and school district would meet with the delegation together. Senator Pappas talked about that. At JIPAC, I brought that up as well, but I do think where the legislators are gonna start to take notice here is gonna be post-November timeframe. People get their property tax notices, and they're gonna have a lot more people they wanna call and talk to about this. Whether or not, and if you've been tracking the news, there's, certainly some debate about whether the school districts, and I mentioned this morning, there's actually 5 school districts in Ramsey County, it's not just St. Paul. So it affects all our legislators across the whole metro or whole delegation, that will they get these referendums? And it's a vicious cycle, really. I mean, this overburden on property taxes is causing other pain throughout the rest of ecosystem of holistic family needs and supports. And if we're not able to fund our schools, that's gonna create another set of problems, right? So I think the legislature might be just, I don't mean this in a negative way, but they might be just a little bit behind in terms of like how much they need to care at this moment. I know they've been really caring a lot about the federal government and those things, but it maybe hasn't quite hit exactly all the layers of where their role is in all of this. And so there's a really good slide that Alex did not do for this group, but she does do she did for our staff employee town hall, which might be interesting, Jen, to bring back to legislature, just kind of their role in the property tax structure. I think some of them understand that they set value, they set some of the classifications and all of that, but I think there's gonna be a moment where property tax is gonna be all the news at the end of, probably around, I don't know, end of October-ish, when everyone around the whole metro gets these, gets their notices. And it's gonna be the main conversation. You're gonna see a big, I guarantee you, some newspaper will do a big spread. You guys have seen the other counties now. It is not something anyone's gonna be able to get away from in terms of the thing that most residents are gonna care about. So I think we're gonna get there. I just think it's gonna take just a little more time. Does that make sense? Yeah.
I love the idea though of doing a property tax one for the legislators. Like you said, in my mind, if we can do it, staff wise and everything, in a couple of weeks, do a little lunch and learn for them or a little, webinar for them, and all of us.
But it might not hurt for us to be the one to bring that, city, school district
And that
thing
one
to a
too, yeah.
fruition, because actually I do think out of the three entities, we have been the most engaged with our delegation, and they told us that.
Oh, yeah, they did.
So short of us initiating it, I don't know if the other two are, I mean, we threw it out there, but like, I don't know who will, you know, and so.
I'm so good, yeah, and because I was around in the legislature when we did do these, you were probably around in the county when we did these, and so they were really great, I love them. And I've asked, I've also often said, why don't we do more of those? I was really grateful that they said, we hear most from the county, which I was really happy about. But they do want to see us with our city and county and school district partners. And I think used to have it at the labor union, at the
Right,
labor
yeah.
hall.
Yep.
And, I can't remember who actually pulled it all together, but it probably was a team of, Jen probably was at LMC when we were doing these. But yeah, I think we should work on doing that, finding a big enough place for everybody
But-
to,
But
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not, cause I thought they were fine too,
yeah.
but I don't think we get to tell our story as
As
well
much,
as we
yeah,
do
for
now.
sure.
Yeah, it's totally true, totally true. It was mainly a get together, right? It wasn't
Yes.
really, it wasn't as effective at information tour, but it did get everybody in the room and we did get to do, I think every entity got to give a little presentation and it wasn't as effective as us having their ear. I totally agree.
The other thing before you keep going on, and I'll bring this to the board, when we were at, I can't remember which one of you was at, NACO and was in that session with me. I did share with our senior management team, but it talked about the states around if you care, Commissioner McMurtry, you were there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there was, they showed some graphics of the 50 states and like the restrictions on the property tax that so many states have, and there's actually, so the legislature actually has a significant role in driving how how this whole works in a state. And there's many states where like you're limited. Imagine if we had a limit of you cannot raise your property tax unless you get permission from the legislature,
Right.
or it's capped out at 4% every year. I mean, there's states that are doing that. And again, we had the loosest, I guess, of flexibilities, but there could be a time where like the pressure from the public is just,
Yeah.
we gotta hold this down, and who's gonna be accountable to doing that, you know, like, and I mean, that's an interesting conversation, right? Because that will make our work even more difficult, so.
And it was in that meeting, did they talk about any states that, and I feel like there's one or two where they are actually able to access income tax. I mean, I've said this many times, like, we should have more ability to access a less regressive tax. Like for our work that we're required to do, let us access income tax.
Maybe what I'll suggest is, as part of the PILT and CPA workshop, let's grab a couple of those slides so that they set some context. So those are available from NACO, and so we should pull those together with that slide. Sorry.
And just jumping in on that too, is I think, just as, not every legislator is thinking about counties, so let them know the difference between like the state delegation, like the state dictates certain services that we're mandated to perform, the state county implemented, that why that dichotomy is connected, why that particular structure is also tied to why the property taxes are so very important,
Mhm.
right? So there's multiple things to maybe bring people along on that journey, that narrative.
Excellent, yeah. Commissioner Jean, did you have some?
No, these are all great ideas.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Commissioner McMurtry?
No, one thing I wanted to mention, in regards to just the approach with state legislators, I think these meetings are good and we need to do more collaboration there. But I also wonder if there's an opportunity for us to like bring them into these spaces. You know, when we talk about modernization of our technology, have them like come visit our FAS team and see it. Like I really think we have an opportunity, and I know they do this during like bonding years to go to different sites, but maybe we can do our own version of that where they can see up close. Here are the different things that we're talking about. When you go back to the legislature, just remember, you saw this housing development that we are looking for money for. You saw the technology for FAS, and hopefully that will encourage them to be, more advocates.
Absolutely, and at AMC, they did a demonstration about that, where they were demonstrating how hard or crazy our technology is around different human services systems, and how you bring your legislator in is super critical. And by Jean, or Commissioner Jean, did you want?
Oh, yeah,
to that?
I think this is a great idea.
It's a great idea.
Also an example that was provided at AMC was just around, that they pulled together an administrator perspective and also like a staff perspective for, correctional staff and pension benefits, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I thought it was just brilliant, like bringing people together to really, see the challenges. This connects with what you're talking about is, just for our elected leaders, at the state to actually see what our staff are dealing with. Like, we hear it already from our staff, but I don't think that they do. Like one conversation I had with one of our staff who does it, she was like, yeah, it takes them like 40 minutes just to make one change in the household's income. And these are like, those are the bottlenecks in our system here. And then we ask why we need more FTEs. And then, just an idea too, that maybe we can bring our union leaders on those conversations with us. And before they do endorsements, maybe they can invite them in. So just ideas. SPFE does that.
I'm gonna let Director Rourke, then Commissioner McMurray comment, and I think that maybe Chief of Staff Tarabia, because I've talked to her about, you both about this idea, but.
Thank you for pitching up that very example, because, behind me, Amy Waslowic's been involved with staff. AMC sort of, I think, is heading up the whole effort, but we're hoping to host one of those in Ramsey County, like October 29th or around that time. So, it'd be really sweet to work with some of your offices to do that extra touch with legislators to make sure that we can get them there, or however that's set up, but
Great idea.
What are we hosting in
Yeah.
October?
some sort of modernization look at
Demonstration.
demonstration project, these archaic
We invite
HHS
legislators
systems.
to sit with staff. They sit with staff on how staff are gonna do something and they see how hard it is to make a change. And then that encourages them to put more money into the system that they're not funding.
They
But
will
it,
come and sit with us.
They've done it
They
in
have
other
it.
jurisdictions, I believe, and we were trying to also be on their schedule to host.
legislators have been doing it.
Yeah. For
I can just chime in. So we're in conversations with AMC and Director Ali from FAS to get this plan. We don't know exactly what it's gonna look like yet. It probably won't be like one-on-one staff,
Yeah.
but in Scott County, they did a demo where they went into the system, one of the systems, and they were trying to do stuff in the system while legislators were watching. So it'll probably be similar to that.
Oh, great.
Just so they get a sense of like, yes, to your point, like, it took 40 minutes, and we're not gonna sit there for 40 minutes and wait, but like, this is the idea that it takes so long to do tiny little things, and you have to change it in 5 different spots instead of one spot. So yeah, we are in the process of planning that. We're working with the AMC on that. It'll probably be one of the 29th is gonna be a metro focus, so we're gonna be working with Hennepin, to have legislators from Ramsey and Hennepin.
What date was that, Amy?
The 29th of October.
Of October.
Yeah, no, we don't have any, we just have a date for now. We don't have anything else yet, because we just had this conversation.
Okay, great.
So I wonder, how do that line up with our priorities? Are we asking for money for technology? Why are we doing that?
Well, I won't say that we're asking for money for technology because there's no money to ask for.
Yeah, so why are we?
But they have to update our systems in order for us to implement the federal changes. So that's part of that conversation.
But it's, we need, there's no money to do that.
Well, they don't have a choice. They're gonna have to make those changes because the
They
county
gave
can't
us
do it
35
themselves.
million.
That's for SSIS,
Okay.
totally different system. So they are looking at some of the other systems that do this work. The DHS got like 200 some million dollars
They did.
a couple of years ago. They haven't spent all of that. So there are ongoing conversations about how does that factor into these conversations about modernization, particularly knowing that we're gonna have to update some systems just to implement the stuff that's coming down from the Fed. So that's happening. I think there's a couple different conversations happening around that. So our ask is really like, yes, we understand there's maybe no money this session, but you did this and the other systems are still also 40 years old. So we want to make sure that legislators know that and understand that that's the cause of a lot of other issues we have.
I'll get the visit in that process, but it's not on our legislative agenda. And we're asking for their time for something that we're not gonna be advocating. for.
Modernization is on our agenda.
It's on our agenda.
Yeah.
It's
just-
essentially framed at this
Yeah, it's
point.
just a
and we
broader
drill down
modernization.
Only. Otherwise, our workers can't do the.
It's a big discussion at AMC, I would just.
Well, oh yeah, so here we are. It's on the number one.
So still,
not gonna
top
happen.
issues so far. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Oh,
I was just saying, I don't think it's gonna happen, so, I mean, but we're asking for time. We're asking for a meeting to talk about the CPA or the PILT or something that we are asking for. Everyone is asking for that, right? The whole 87 counties are asking for that request. And we're asking for them to take time out of their day.
So I'll
I'm
find
just saying, I'm just.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Moran, I understand, and so this is where we kind of get tugged and pulled. This ask came from AMC, we spoke with Chair, and this was an opportunity. We're now talking to staff to try to set it up, and this is where sometimes we get some socialization or some FaceTime with them on a topic that has been very pressing for us, but I also hear your concerns of if it's not even doable this session, why do we take their time? And this is where we look to, I'm gonna be a little risky and say, we look to our board and our leadership to help us make sure we're using and maximizing our face time with the
Yeah.
legislature.
For sure, and I totally support this, so we'll talk, yeah, we will talk about it, but
Great idea, it's not a bad idea, but how do we best utilize our time with our legislators?
they have
We
money.
want them to carry,
yeah.
but AMC is gonna work
No,
on
no,
that.
they have money to do stuff with, so we want our legislators to understand why they need to put that money into that system and then into.
I get
us.
that.
Yeah,
But it's
So we
just
need our
AMC
legislative.
legislative agenda.
but we're AMC.
Okay, whatever.
We are AMC, who else is gonna,
Okay.
yeah.
So I think I have a question, Madam Chair, for these guys. You know, everything I've seen around modernization also says that there has to be some streamlined processes and procedures that maybe legislature or DHS has to sort of engage with. So is there some free work that actually has to happen so that maybe that is the ask, right? Like, I don't know. You know, it just seems like it's a multi-phase kind of effort. It's not just technology, like we need certain things to be more simple. Like, again, I don't know if we have all the right people here to do that, but I think modernization is coming off as like, hey, we just need new software and but I think there's a lot more like hangups than just the software, I guess. And so how do we, while doing that, still get that message out? Because that seems very tangible in a policy year. Like, does DHS actually need to just be more flexible in some things, you know, and change some things that would allow for us to do things easier in the system that we have? Kind of, how do you fly a new ship while you're building the current one too? So I just want to make sure it's not so lofty that we actually don't see any improvements that anybody can feel in this decade, you know? So, just a thought.
I appreciate it, Commissioner Jevons.
I just want to build off of what you're talking about, County Manager Becker, and that our Director Nadir, following some of the budget presentations that we had some ideas of things like, and I guess this is where it comes into government affairs. I know we were kind of chatting at the end of a very long day, but you know, just to make clear certain kind of interim steps that we could do that might take the load off, such as you know, he educated us that like, even if a case, an application comes in for a benefit that at first glance they know probably isn't gonna fit the eligibility, they still they're obligated to fill all of the paper for that particular thing. You know, you know, what kind of controls do we have over that? Does the legislature have over that? And or if that's a federal thing, you know, is it legal to maybe have an AI pre-screen? Like a quick screen that somebody could do on our website that said, hey, before you resident, fill out all of this paperwork, do a quick screen, self-select. If you don't like the answer, here's a chatbot that's gonna walk you through the top 10 reasons why you could or couldn't or whatever. You still are happy to apply. It's, you know, but it might help us, you know, and help our residents not apply for, you know, some of those kind of things. And I don't know the legal ramifications of some of those. I don't know where those decision points are. But I think that there are more ways than just fix this one big system, that we can still get to where we need to go. in the meantime.
And I would argue it's not a budget year, but it's a policy year, so there may be some policies that we have. And also I wanted to say, we haven't really come up with our top yet. We're still working on it. So when you say it's not our top issues,
Yeah.
we haven't done those yet, right?
Well,
Or- yeah.
we just did.
No, we're still
No.
working on it.
So-
This is just
a
themes.
padless.
These are just the
So what I
themes.
think,
Yeah.
like these top issues, what is our ex going into a legislative session?
Well, that's
We
what we're
just brought
working
up
on.
like 20 issues. How many is this, two?
But this is meeting one.
But I'm just
This is meeting
saying,
one.
but I'm
yeah.
just saying in
Yeah.
general, what is our ex when we go to legislature? I think we talked about it. We did talk about that.
So this is
Right.
meeting one
It doesn't
of
have to
the,
be
of the
so
legislative
long,
meetings. Yeah.
right? But we need to go in there with a purpose.
Okay. So yes, but that's what we're doing here, right? This is our workshop. And we're gonna do a second workshop where we're gonna vote on what our priorities are gonna be, but you already know what they are. So, yeah. Oh, okay. Commissioner Miller.
So I want to go off of what Commissioner Jevon Singh just said, and there is a tool, called Bridge to Benefits, the Children's Defense Fund. And I know a lot of local organizations use that tool before they even refer, so like if you go into a food shelf, I know where I oversaw, our staff was using that tool and to pre-screen them to say, these are what you qualify for, assistant, medical assistant, SNAP, energy, daycare, to really kind of help that. So I don't know if there's a way we could start having more referral to that tool.
Chair.
Yes, yes.
I'm actually working.
Can you just
with-
introduce yourself
Oh,
first?
Carissa
Yeah.
Dillon, planning manager. I'm actually working on that right now as part of our holistic approach to, strengthen families. So we have a, contract with the Children's Defense Fund currently. We didn't mention it last time because it wasn't signed. I think we had a board workshop a few months ago. And we're working right now to try to implement, on a phased approach of some of our programs to offer those wraparound services.
And can I just ask a follow-up on that? Because when you go to the state's website, right, to apply for this and that, isn't there a pre-screen already before you even upload the documents? And wasn't that the whole idea to have everything in one spot? I'm gonna go, let me go, I'm gonna go.
Well, it's a good idea.
Well, and I keep misrepresenting the conversation, so let me just. before we go down this Before we,
Commissioner.
before we go down this
Yeah.
particular rabbit hole, I think I was using that more as an example for us to have conversations with staff. As we come to our second meeting, to say that there may be some policy things that would help us get out of the bureaucracy out of the way. So if that's not the right example, or if there are things in place, I kind of put that more as an example to say, are there other policies that would help us cut through the bureaucratic red tape? That's get out of our own way. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Commissioner Jean.
Yeah,
and Commissioner McMurphy.
Yeah, Commissioner Jefferson, I really appreciate that frame too, because there are things that the state can do in their training. I was a MNsure navigator, before, this was 10 years ago, over 10 years ago. But the training then was that, no matter what, just get people to like apply because it demonstrates a need in the community, right? And so that was the training from the state. So I just want to say that like this policy, it needs to match what happens at the local level. What they didn't understand about in creating the system, about making it easy, was that it actually like just overloaded our system. And that's been the big problem. So I just want to mention that, like, since it is a policy piece, let's go for it and figure that out together. And I also do want to add that since it is a policy year and we are anticipating another issue with what the presentation we got from emergency communications is the new amount of like infrastructure that we need that's upwards of 15 million, 15 million. That's about as much as what we're talking about in the SNAP shift to counties. So if it's a policy year, and I know that there have been challenges at MESB when I was on there, like the state is just like really dragging its feet essentially on addressing this issue. So as a policy, maybe as a policy, we should be bringing this and elevating that, hey, like the time is gonna expire very soon and we need to raise the alarm too. So whether that's an MESB thing where all the counties are together, but we should definitely be supportive of the policies that some of our JPA partners have as well.
Thank you. Commissioner McMurtry.
You mentioned for next year, what to expect. I want to go back to it. Positioning for midterm elections, with it being an election year, what potential implications could that have on us and as we build out this platform and the work of lobbying for that platform in the session of next year?
Wow, that's a great question, Commissioner. You know, the first one that comes to mind is always that legislators are excited to get out of the legislative session so they can get on the campaign trail. So usually we're, you know, mid-May is typically when the legislative session ends, and also super loaded topic, just the fact we're in this tie situation in almost both bodies, but for sure in the House. And also a few special elections that are still up in the air. Combined with, you know, legal issues people are going through and, you know, a lot of things that legislators are dealing with. Running for mayor, I mean, there's a lot going on in terms of planning our work and what some of those folks are busy doing right now. So I'm really glad you brought that up. Especially on the legislative side, we always kind of look at that, but that certainly applies at the federal level too. And I'll just say to wrap it up, you know, I think Governor Walz announcing again that he's running for a third term kind of settles a few things, you know, at least in terms of other people not running for governor or the US Senate offices staying in place, so. You probably have more to add on that though. I'd be curious to hear from you.
So maybe we'll let you finish your slide deck though, because
Okay.
we're doing these top issues and I know Commissioner Moran is, you know, we've all been talking about these issues for so long and I think some of us feel like we've already decided, you know, we already have decided what our top issues. I think we all have them sort of in our head, what we think we want to talk about, but this list was so far, this is sort of what we're hearing. And then we do have to think about, yeah, which ones are we going to focus on and where, you know, what are we going to do while we're supporting all of them? And our platform does support a lot of issues. It's just, we're going to have to figure out what we truly focus on for our top ones. And that we'll have these next few weeks to think about and do, and then we'll decide those at our second workshop. But yes.
Yeah,
Commissioner
Madam
John.
Chair, I would just like further clarity on the top issues so far about like what specific policy piece is it tied to? I mean, I understand CPA and health, like those are clear, but downtown revitalization, public safety, mental health, gun violence, some of those are too broad. So if you could come back with more specific policy pieces, that would be helpful.
And I think yes, so let's get through and then, right, what's our strategy for how we're gonna get to all those things? Cause it's a great point and a great segue. Finishing up, these issues and then we'll figure out what our strategy is and how we're gonna do.
So, Madam Chair, I just wanna kind of give some framework here. Jen and her team did do quite a bit more refining here. I had asked if we could just slow things down just a bit because I needed the DCMs to re-engage back in the process and connect more with the directors just one more time before we got to the specifics. So there's probably, I don't know, 15 or so items that I think are on the list, and I just needed, so coming out of the LPATs, we need to just go back to kind of some of the leadership to be able to make sure we're putting the right things forward, and we needed just that little bit of time. And so they are close, I will say. So hopefully that's helpful.
That's great context. We want to make sure that whatever we do put forward, we actually really need, which I think we all agree with. So Commissioner Gibbons, then Commissioner Zhang, then Commissioner.
This might be a matter of semantics, but sometimes these things matter. I understand why mental health, gun control, gun violence and local control are listed together as they tie to recent events and the way people are framing them. But mental health, people living with mental illness are more likely to be victims of crime than perpetrating them, and it has been a constant issue for us. Is there a way for us, at least in our documentation, to separate these?
Yeah, good idea.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you for that. That's a really good, I support that as well. Okay, Commissioner Zhang and then Commissioner.
And then the other item that I feel like we didn't even touch our bonding request. So that's a very big one. And also how we shift through requests coming from community. I may have mentioned this a little bit too, but the city of St. Paul always gets those requests from community members or community organizations to be on their bonding list. And that's been a request that I have gotten in my office as well too. And, I know that we don't have a history of doing that, although we've done once only. But those are the type of things that I would want our team to think through as well, in shifting or sifting through bonding requests. Whether that be coming from our departments as well as communities.
I love this suggestion as well, yeah, and I don't know what our plan is. I guess I'll keep going around and we'll kind of catalog these as to how are we gonna manage all that? Commissioner Ortega, then Commissioner Archer.
Just in the interest of actually getting, not that we didn't do, but optimizing our resources when we're up there, so. And tell me if this is even feasible, I'm just throwing out ideas. So if you take mental health, Tara brought up, separate mental health, right?
Yes.
I would do it for different reasons. Gun violence is a hot topic. Everybody, not everybody, but there's a big army pushing for that.
Yeah.
Should we be not that we don't support it, but should we be spending as much energy on that as in mental health, and say, we know that's being taken care, so when you're going through the list, well, it's nice for us to throw all the topics that we are supportive of, but which ones do we spend gas on?
Right.
It makes sense?
Absolutely, that's what this whole process is about, let's get them out there, and then we're gonna figure out which ones we're gonna totally focus on for timing reasons, for all sorts of reasons. Did you wanna say anything more, otherwise I'm gonna, Commissioner, or, yes, Director, I'm trying to see if I should call it Mercury first, and then Jennifer.
You were gonna say something.
I was just gonna react with, oftentimes in our platform, we've used, two keywords, lead or support. Lead.
Yeah, and I know, but I'm going beyond that.
Right.
I really want the staff to say, here's where we put our energy in.
That's what you're saying.
Because even lead and support,
Too much. We don't.
it's not as directive. It's, what does that mean? And while I am empathetic towards what you were saying in terms of communities bonding, that could be very messy and dilutes our, I'm just throwing it out there.
Well, that's why I said we should sift it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That gets very messy and dilutes, again, our resources to really educate and push. Especially if we have a champion, then we should give that champion support to get at least that one object done. And the same thing goes with the bonding. We need to be really, I just throwing that out, but as the stuff comes back, we could be finding that.
These are really good points, though, you're right, we have our priorities for bonding already labeled, and you're right, if we bring in community, there's gonna be a lot of requesters, but that's what we can sift through all that, but I'm glad we're sort of getting it all on the table. Mercury, then Commissioner Moran, and then I will call on Chief of Staff.
And this is before we wrap up, I know we spent a lot of time talking about the state
We're going till
today.
3, we're good,
Okay,
we'll go till 3.
I know we spent a lot of time talking about the state, but I also want to mention the federal government side of things and get a better understanding of what the plan is around CPF earmarks as heading into next year. What is that something that you all will be presenting to us, or how will you go about determining the list that we then submit?
Yeah, okay, do you wanna, why don't you address that, Director of Work, and then we'll ask calling Commissioner Moran, or unless Chief of Staff wants to.
I don't have, I'm
Okay.
deferring to Jen.
Okay.
And I'll have a short answer. I don't know that we'd have that list for the October 21st. Like to answer the question, like what CPS projects we should advance for. 2027, because they're always dealing with that future
Alright.
fiscal year. I'd like to work with the county manager and exec team on that. You know, there were a lot of ideas that came up, frankly, in the budget process that I thought, oh, I wonder if that would be an interesting earmark to some of our federal offices. I have asked our federal lobbying folks to put together a list of basically everything that is passed muster in with our 3 delegation offices, Smith, Klobuchar, and McCollum, just to kind of get a new set of eyes on what's been most appealing. Sometimes that's been kind of across the nation, like public safety things are working well right now. 1 or 2 other things kind of pop out, but that's how I'd like, the approach I'd like to take.
No, I think that's fair, and even I saw the exact same thing in my time in Congressman McCraig's office. There are certain buckets that you know are really appealing to certain members of Congress, and I think one that continues to grow and that I know that we've talked a lot about at this table is just substance use. And opioids and fentanyl, that continues to be a big issue, and I know that most of the offices that I've seen, at least in this state, when it comes to those type of earmarks around fentanyl in particular, have been pretty supportive of it. So I like the idea of having our consultants kind of look through if those areas that we know are of big interest to them, and that they would be more inclined to, you know, support. Yeah.
Commissioner Moran. I would, as we shift through all of that and come up with our priorities, I will hope that as we think about this, that we have not a booklet of stuff that we want to support, and just be really intentional about what we're leading on. It's a short session. It's gonna be a big contentious session because they are gonna be campaigning and thinking about that, right? So we need to be very clear and short about the agenda that we're gonna be carrying. And I think this is also a good time for us to think about, as you talked about, Representative Lee leading on CPA or PILT, that we have good, strong conversation with her to carry the bill and getting her talking points now so that she can, like, if they're gonna drop a bill early, that it would be one of the first bills that she drops, right? And it will be her priority, because it's really, really important that they are leading, right? And we're not pushing them or constantly checking in. They are checking with us because they're leading on it. And so we have to, and that's for whatever our legislative agenda may be, that we are tying that with a legislator who's going to carry the bill and getting that bill early. And I would hope that, you know, as Garrison was talking about mental health and substance use disorder, you know, I don't see that up here, but we've been talking about this a lot. And we have Sophia, we have the that we're closing, the detox center that we're closing. We've been talking about what we're going to do next and what we need for Ramsey County to really support the huge issues that we have in Ramsey County around mental health and substance use disorder. Is there a moratorium that we need to look at? Do we need to be given an exception? You know, so I mean, this is like a very intentional year, right? And not a long list of items. We are going to advocate for Ramsey County, what Ramsey County wants. And, you know, and I would like to see us spend some time there with our delegation, being able to do that strongly. And so,
Chair, I'd like to build off of that and say we are at a point in time where I think our other elected offices in Ramsey County, given the work that's going on at the ADC and Project Bridge and the work that's going on in our courts and all of that I think also we would have partners in that if we came in as a strong contingent in all areas as one Ramsey County around this issue. As well as our community partners who are aligning around this issue.
they're there.
And
Madam Chair, just on her point. Sure. I mean, that's what I was trying to say when I was talking about, it's different from having the support and the lead. I'm not talking about that at all. if we were to come out of this session with just one thing, like county program A or pill as a success, that's a huge victory. Be huge, bigger than anything you've done so far. And that's what I'm trying, and if we have a champion there to do that, and we could support that champion, like Rena stated, I would be ecstatic just to come out with that, that would be you.
Well, we would love that, and the danger of doing just one thing like that.
No,
I
know.
I mean, it's not a,
Not a
budget, it's not a budget year, I mean,
But
we
you
would all love
can't, you
that,
can't spread, you can't take,
yeah.
you can't spread yourself so thin that you get nothing done.
Right, but we can fight for that for sure, and we will, and yes, but it's not a budget year, and this is a lot of money.
Right. But
So-
we have delegate.
I know they don't have it, but.
We have delegation leaders who are on different
Yeah.
committees. You know, if we have something in Health and Human Service, who's on that tonight? Or who can't, don't have to be on the committee, but who's a champion around that issue, who cares, they have passion for it. You know, we can have something around, you know, what homelessness, I don't know, but it is a policy year, so we're focused,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, and if
On
we're,
that.
and to all of the budget conversations that we've had this year, whether it's the Downtown Alliance talking about quality of life and business development and trying to get St. Paul going, whether it's safety on transit on the metro line, whether, like, we are talking about addressing the issues of our vulnerable residents who have been shuffled around from place to place. This hits all of the boxes of things that we've been hearing about this are in our budget session. So it is the kind of thing that I think you can get a lot of different people.
Always happy to pick county program A, it is to come out with wins, a significant win.
Right, well, absolutely, that's our goal, is to come out with.
Well, but you don't do it by spreading yourself so thin.
Right, what I would ask somebody who's new to the county board and getting a grasp of is that we could have an internal document of what we're supporting. So that when our constituents, when our partners in community, when we're at the Hill, when we're at the Capitol, and when we are in community and legislators ask us our opinion as trusted thought partners on certain things, that we have that to refer to. And yes, we're supporting that. This isn't our focus, but yes, certainly we have opinions and yes or no, or we're neutral or staying out of it. That would, even if that's an internal document, I think that would be helpful for us.
Well, and we can support more than one thing, I
Well,
mean,
we
we can
should-
support, but
we
we
have
can.
several
but-
things.
I'm
but
not saying we don't support, you're
Right.
missing the point.
Right, so no, I
Talking
know what
about
you're saying.
Delegation of
agenda.
resources.
Right, I'm gonna call on Commissioner John, but I'm also gonna say, like, we should pick our
Our champion
champions.
agenda.
We've got Sandra Feist, champion for probation funding. We absolutely still need to fund probation because it's not fully funding that formula, and
that's
she's ready
fine.
to go for bear on that. But we don't do it at the expense of other issues, but we just let her take that because that's something she's passionate about. She's willing to be a bat for us, for the whole state, but it really helps Ramsey County. But anyway, that's an example where it may not be the number one issue, but it's absolutely something we should let her keep leading on. But
Right.
anyway, Commissioner
Um,
Jean.
Yeah, I think this is a great opportunity and exercise into screening and shifting what our priorities are, right?
Yeah,
So I'll
good
just,
job.
I'll just name
Yeah.
it like that because you know, I get constituent requests sometimes too, where they're like, oh, where does the county stand on data centers or nuclear power? You know, like these are statewide issues, right?
Right.
So I think just getting.
Nuclear power, really?
Yeah,
We
yeah,
just-
like, no, that's happening.
Yeah, I heard about that last
Energy,
week.
right?
It was a voted item that was almost split in the
In the-
natural
in that-
energy.
in AMC.
Yeah.
AMC's natural energy.
I'm just saying, like, honestly, like, these are things that are going to be brought up.
Yeah.
What's helpful for us as commissioners are just actually staying like united on these issues. And if we don't have a position that staff should be comfortable to say, well, we actually don't. Or we can just say, these are our plans that we have that guides our work. You know?
And it's nice to have a platform, like, we don't have to have a huge thing that we hand out to everybody, but I like to say, it's in our platform, we're good. We're not gonna, we're not leading on it. I know you don't like those words, I don't know what else to use, but when we lead, then you really focus on it. But we do, I like to have a platform, so we know where we have issues, we support
finding prevention to homelessness, there's certain things we just support. And I just want to be on record for that. Otherwise, people are gonna be always coming to us and saying, can you pass a resolution on this? Can you pass a resolution on that? I said, no, it's in our platform. We're good. So those are just some of the things I think we want to be thinking about as we all, I think, agree that we want to be focused on our ask to the legislature.
Tight focus, isn't it?
But yeah, so here, let's
Can I
Let's
speak,
keep on, yes.
Madam Chair?
Yeah, I love the passion in this room around this.
That's what exactly I was gonna speak to. So we had the opportunity to shift things around. I want you all to know a little bit what's happening under the hood here, although it's on public display. We had an opportunity to delay some of this, but we need this richness and discussion, and we need to have a little bit more of this dialogue, because there's been a ton of work done under the hood. We have all these forms and staff have contributed all these things. And we need the time to work with our DCMs to connect with the directors, but this is the level of like urgency, focus, refinement. I hear us saying we need to have a selection of items and be able to go deep. And while we have peripheral things that are important to us, like, I just want you to know that we are hearing this. We have pages and pages of notes on how, and we're in the midst of trying to shift some of this in real time. So I want to just acknowledge that piece, and I can't help myself because there was a time when I did work in Medicaid eligibility policy. And all you have to do is write, I want to apply for MA on a napkin, and under the eligibility rules, that sets your intent to apply date, and you have appeal rights that go all the way back to that date, even if the system doesn't work or what have you. So there's a ton of like unraveling, and the discussions that we've had at AMC on the modernization piece. I just want us to know, like, we can't, same way the county can't do it all, like the state, we can't have 500 boutique healthcare programs and think we're gonna have a seamless, efficient system that connects and does all the things and gets the eligibility determined out straight away. So these are very robust conversations that we're having across the state and that need to happen at the legislature. And so I hear the nuance that you're picking out, Commissioner Moran, in terms of like modernization hasn't been done yet. We get it. And we still need to push for people to understand how the system is actually designed and what part of the design is what leads to the inability for it to work effectively. So there's gonna be trade-offs. And that's the beauty of this body of work. It's really complex. It's very layered, like incredibly nuanced and very political, which you all already know. And we could have been like, bake this up further and then brought it to you when we thought it was great, but we need this type of discussion to have a proper platform that meets the expectations of this county when we come to you next time.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Well said. And I'm gonna let everyone speak before we go, so but Commissioner McMurtry and Commissioner Jevon and.
Yep, really quick, and I know that I kind of spoke to this in our one-on-one conversations around the community engagement piece and some of the ideas of how we can leverage us as commissioners to help gather some of that input and feedback. And I mentioned the idea of like some type of I don't know, a QR code or survey that we can use and have at events with us, and folks can just go straight to that and provide their feedback on like, what are some issues that are important to you that you want us fighting for at the legislature? So I just wanted, before we wrapped up, just to, remind that we, as commissioners, I think there's an opportunity to leverage us and our community connections to gather that community feedback on what, the platform becomes.
I appreciate that. And as I said, I want everyone to speak, but I also want to make sure that if there's anything more on these slides, because we didn't finish the slide deck, but.
Yeah,
Commissioner Jenkins.
my last thing was just, I like that we're having 2 sessions on this, and I like the up the scale, down the scale stuff, because we may be, at this level, be at the policy level, be interested in specific topics, but until you get down to the frontline workers, I don't want to be asking at the legislature for something that's not actually gonna make their lives and work easier, right? So it has to come from that, they're the ones who are gonna say, well, this is actually what's gonna help us. Don't ask for this other thing, right? So thank you for giving that cycle its due process.
I appreciate that. Commissioner Zhang, and then if there's, let's finish these slides, but Commissioner.
Very last thing that we didn't discuss was just the property tax relief about making it automatic. This was discussed with Representative Leslie, and also Pat, I believe it was Pat, right?
Yeah, and Matt from AMC.
Yep, so they actually mentioned it already too. So if there's already work there, I think that since it is a policy year, this is a piece that we can actually like report on, not lead on, but report on. Yeah.
I love that you brought that up. I think we were all taking notes madly through the budget here. He's like, okay, this is legislative, this is, and we were all doing that. So we'll bring those back as we funnel through all of this as well. If there's anyone else, but Jen, do you want to just wrap these all up? I mean, okay, here's the engagement, next steps. We'll talk about doing legislative things too. I mean, individual meetings with commissioners.
Sure, I'll jump in. We've got the dates we've already shared with you. The next time we come to the board workshop, we will have a much more fine-tuned product. Should be really close to being an actual platform and just to be a state platform and a federal platform. We'll be working with the legislative team, also known as the Legislative Committee, which is chaired by Commissioner McGuire, and Moran is our vice chair. And then obviously working with leadership and the DCMs to kind of comb through some of those. I would point out, this is the second year of the biennium, and there's already been 6,000 bills
Wow.
that are out there with a number. And some of those are ours, like the Park at River's Edge, Aldrich Arena, and other things that have already been introduced and are technically alive. A homelessness bill that we worked on last year, trying to get county funding, that's still alive from last year. So some of that work is out there already, I would just point out. We will fine tune whatever we're calling it, I call it hot topics, but a hot topics seminar series with legislators around 4 or 5 topics, just to put that out there in the world. Hopefully we'd be able to announce them all at once, and just make it like a Thursdays at 1 kind of thing. This is a part-time legislature, and a lot of these folks have other jobs that they're juggling, so.
And hopefully you would be able to come, if we put it out there, I want you all to feel that you can come to these. Like if you want to sit in on one of those and see, let's say,
Sure.
like, we'd have to talk about that. I'm hoping this would be something that we could put out for all of you to feel that you could be there for. And, and if you have, as you have ideas on what those hot topics could be, or all the things that you're passionate about, keep funneling it through to Jen or Chief of Staff Sarabia, Marina, myself, Commissioner Miranda, myself.
Same to me.
I mean, talk to us, talk to me, and we'll factor that into our team meetings. We have them, we're gonna have them almost weekly or every 2 weeks now, we'll be meeting more regularly.
I would like to just ask one more question for feedback from the commissioners. I know many of you have aligned issues just based on like what committees you chair and other things. I do think one of the, like I think about the EDA, Commissioner Zhang, like you being like so versed in that topic. I just wonder if we have a shorter list, is it fair to assume we could put 1 or 2 of you on each issue and you just become I just think there's so much more accessibility and understanding, and you become the subject matter expert in it and stuff, it really helps. I think I saw that pay back in spades with EDA. So I just think maybe we should lean on that, learning, if you guys are open to that,
Maybe, yeah, you could put out, yes,
Yeah.
you should all feel, yes, I think
Okay.
it's a great
It
idea.
doesn't mean you all don't know about it, but I think it just really helps, maybe a
I want
1 and 2, so that there's some backup, but it's it's easier for Jen, if she needs someone to testify, we're not like, oh, well, it's email all 7. I mean, it's just kind of, who you go to, they can't do it, you go to number 2. I just think it's more more efficient too, so.
I would just add, we've always done that, but this just kind of makes it more formal.
Yeah.
And we'll work with all of you around those interests area, so,
Perfect.
thank you.
I said I would is there anyone else that wants to make, Commissioner Moran, did you want to say anything?
No, I did, and I wanted to say thank y'all for just letting us talk this out loud,
Yes.
Yeah, and, it helps each one of us to get focused, right? Also align ourselves to the work that needs to be done. I think we can help lead it, so I appreciate this.
Thank you, well said, that's great, thank you all for your passion and energy around this work, and thank you to the whole team, the whole government relations team, Chief Staff Manager, everyone in the audience. Yeah, thanks, everyone. Thank you, appreciate it. I will, the workshop is